Hey, just finished up the podcast with Jason Duncan here, the real Jason Duncan at the root of all success. And I can tell you that working with Jason through his club, through the Exeter Club, and being a part of that, and also knowing him for a very long time, that his genuineness in helping entrepreneurs literally exit without exiting so that they can move on and do more with their life in order to give back. That this guy's got a real heart for that. And if you're on the fence or whatever it may be, and you think that, well, maybe I might give this guy a shot, or boy, there seems to be a lot of that out there, I would strongly encourage you in order to take a look at what Jason's got, what the real Jason Duncan has over here, because it's awesome stuff, man. And I really think that you would benefit from it significantly. So I just did the podcast, Justin Denherter, and that's it. Cheers.
Welcome to the root of all success with the real Jason Duncan, a podcast that explores how the world's most powerful entrepreneurs unlocked success and how their stories can help you do the same. A successful educator turned entrepreneur, Jason has built multi-million-dollar businesses that have been featured in Inc. magazine and Entrepreneur magazine. His life's mission now is helping entrepreneurs live what he calls #the exit lifestyle. Introducing TEDx speaker, mastermind leader, author, entrepreneur, cigar aficionado, motorcycle enthusiast, and host of the root of all success, the real Jason Duncan. The real Jason Duncan.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of The Root of All Success. It's your boy JD here. I've got another JD on the show today. My good friend, one of my best friends in the world, Justin Denherter, is going to be here talking with us today about how he overcame being fat, sick, and medicated when he was 35, 36 years old, and how he's been able to maintain that for the last 12 years without any problems. That has led him to become a great health coach. He is a certified primal health coach. And he and his wife, Cindy, his lovely wife, Cindy, do a lot of health coaching with people all over the world and showing them how to not be fat, not be sick, not be medicated, and how you can get the healthy lifestyle healthy lifestyle that you desire, get that back. He's also a business owner, a business leader. He's owned several businesses, has done very well for himself, was able to exit without exiting so that he could start a coaching business in the health space to really pursue his passion. And he lives down in Jacksonville, Florida. But we're going to talk at the beginning of the show how he moved all over the country chasing the right weather. And so, but I met him when he moved to Tennessee. But he's a great dude. You're really, really going to enjoy this conversation. So please help me welcome Justin Denherter to the show. Hey, man, Justin, welcome to the show.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. Super pumped to be here.
Well, I'm glad you're here too. I just wish you were here in Nashville because you scoundrel, you and your wife moved off and left us here in Nashville all by ourselves. So if I didn't say this in the intro, Justin and I have been best friends for a while, and he just got sick of the Tennessee winters and decided to move to Florida. So now I don't get to see him as often, but now we're doing the podcast, and he's not even in Florida. He's in South Dakota right now. So why are you in South Dakota right now?
Well, my family lives here, but just to back up real quick, as it relates to Tennessee, you're living in and around the Nashville area. Jason, it was the winter that Old Hickory froze over. That's really what did me in, coming out of Southern California and then living in Tennessee, because I really thought that it was supposed to just be warm there because it's the South, right? And well, I tell you what, it didn't turn out to be that way at all.
Well, we had a very, very mild winter after you left. This past winter here in the Nashville area we had 1 week of super freezing weather. Like Christmas Day here last year, it was 0 degrees. But New Year's Day, it was warm enough for me to ride my motorcycle. And that was it. We had no more cold after that. It was pretty mild, no snow. Actually, it snowed on Christmas Day, but like just a dusting. It was nothing to speak of. But so born and raised in South Dakota, moved to the West Coast, lived in Southern California, then moved to Tennessee. Now you're in Florida. I guess that would be northeastern Florida, Jacksonville area.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you've moved around a lot. So you've got to see a lot of the U.S. throughout your life. What's your favorite part so far?
Wow, that's a great question. Really love the weather in Southern California. I think every time that I go back to visit my wife's family, there's always just a little part of me that says, I wonder if I could move back here. But then I just think about like the high cost and all of the things that go along with living in California, and that pretty much ends that feeling of novelty, right away as far as missing anything from there. But I will have to say that our recent move to Jacksonville has really been good. Surprisingly, we really enjoy it there. It's not that we didn't enjoy Tennessee, you know, but last place on earth would be to ever move back to South Dakota. I love my family. I love my family. I love coming back and visiting. But as far as like living here full time again, I'd have to be called back, in order to move back here.
Yeah, I think I'm as far north as I'll ever want to live in Nashville. I remember back when I was in ministry, and I know you know part of my story. Some of the listeners know part of the story, but I was in ministry for 13 years, and I moved around different places. And I was out actually in Nebraska for about a year and a half at one time. But I remember doing interviews. I did interviews in Indiana. I did interviews in like the northern tip of Kentucky, where Ohio. I did interviews in Ohio. And I remember, and I even had a phone interview with one out of, I think it was Massachusetts. I was in my 20s when I was doing this. And I am so grateful that none of those churches offered me jobs, because I don't think I would have ever wanted to deal with the winter. So I get it. Like this is all I want. Tennessee gives me the four seasons that I like. I wouldn't want it.
Oh yeah,
But I was just in
South
Southern.
Dakota.
I was just in Southern California. Well, I was just in Southern California when you guys were there, because your wife's mom passed away, and you guys were there for the
Yep.
funeral. I was there for speaking at an event, and it was actually pretty chilly compared to what I was ready for that week that we were there. It was nice, but it was a little colder.
They
I had
had
to wear
gotten
a hoodie.
snow there. Huntington Beach had gotten snow, I think, just about a week prior or somewhere in that time, where you were at, because you were in HB, right? You were in Huntington Beach.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They got some really kind of odd weather there in SoCal for a little while.
Well, I we were with the Exeter Club, which you remember. We'll talk about that in a minute. But my mastermind, we were just down in Islamorada, Florida last week, and had a phenomenal time. And the weather was absolutely perfect. I mean, it was in the mid 80s the whole time we were there. Beautiful sunshine. It started raining a little bit on Sunday when we left, but that's how Florida is, man. You get a pop up shower for a minute, and then it goes away. It's back to sunshining again. So that's the beautiful part about Florida. But well, let's talk about what it is that you do, man. I mean, you and I have
Yep.
been friends for, I guess, when did we meet? It was 6 or 7 years ago. Was it that long ago?
Had to have
I
been
can't remember.
sometime in, let's see, 2017, maybe 2017, about 5, 6 years ago,
Yeah,
somewhere around there.
yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds about right. Still feels like forever. Time flies when you're having fun, man. But it's like I feel like I've known you for my whole life. But we met, and I was running my lighting company full time, and you were running a company doing IT. But your story about your health transformation has been there since you were in your 30s.
Hmm.
So tell everybody, and now what you've done is you've taken your story and you've turned it into what you do to bless other people. I don't know who said it, but I think somebody said your best served. I'm screwing up the quote, but it's you're best suited to serve the person you once were. And I think that's what you're doing right now. You're serving the people that you once were, fat, sick, medicated. So I can't imagine you weighing as much as you said you weigh. I've seen the pictures of it. But like, tell me how you got to that point of just being so overweight, fat, sick, medicated, and then that transformation. Tell the story.
So just to start out, a lot of people that struggle with their weight, or they struggle with sickness, or they struggle with those things. It's not for the stereotype a lot of times of how people would say that they're lazy, or they're not trying to make an effort, or they're not trying to do something. It's more about a confused mind will always say no, and when you're bombarded with a million different ways to try to figure out how to solve that problem for good, there's a lot of trial and error that comes along with it, and you end up doing a lot of things, and especially like there's a lot of really good, well-intentioned people within the diet and fitness industry that are helping people, but the way that they're helping them isn't really giving people the restoration that they're looking for. So I spent a lot of times on different kinds of diet programs, different kinds of fitness programs, various different physical trainers. I'd gone through all of the things that modern day society would say, hey, these are the things that you need to do. But when you go through those things, a lot of times what ends up happening is most of it is deprivation based or scarcity based. And a lot of it, when it comes from like the diet side, it's that way. And when you're looking at the exercise, for men, they're trying to over exercise and to be able to do weight control, but it's just not something that happens. Like, you can't exercise off your weight long term. It's not sustainable. So I literally had to go through, what I would call my pity party, which was not when I was at the pinnacle of my sickness at the age of 35. I was pushing 270. It was a size 42 waistline. I was on triglyceride meds. I was on cholesterol medications. I slept with a CPAP. I would get heartburn that would wake me up in the middle of the night. I was pre-diabetic. I had the onset of heart disease, and all kinds of other different various types of illnesses that were plaguing me in my life at the ripe old age of 35. Right. So I had a physical trainer that literally just said this to me, before I fired him, and he was a great guy. Like, I didn't have any, but I wasn't getting the results, and it wasn't his fault. It was because I think, like, a lot to those guys, they got one arm tied behind their back because there's just certain things that they can't talk about if they're not licensed to talk about it. So nutrition is one of them that makes it difficult for them because they're not trained in nutrition, and there's a lot of laws and regulation around that. But he said to me, he goes, maybe you should just like lay off like bread and potatoes or something for a little while, and at that point, just being a meat and potatoes and bread guy, like, I just looked at him like he was an alien. And I'm like, I'm like, dude, like, what are you talking about, man? Like, what am I supposed to eat if like the main staple of my meal is going to disappear, or de-emphasize it like significantly? Like, what does that even mean? But dude, that was the jump off point, the precipice that sent me on a journey. So when I literally jumped off of that, like, I hopped on an airplane, and then I just kept going further up and following that journey. And it led me to where I am today. And that's how, following the system through the mentorship that I've took through Mark Sisson and the Primal Blueprint, that has allowed me to be able to live the way that I live now, and how I've been able to sustain that and continue to strengthen my health and keep my weight down and stay off the medications and all of that, because I just created a new eating style and a new exercise style. And that ultimately led to a lifestyle. And then now it's just a part of everything that I do. So
what do you think? Like, I've met your dad. I've not, I know you've had one brother who passed away. Obviously, I've never met him. And I know you have another brother who's still alive, and I've never met him. I've met your mom. Like, does obesity and just unhealthy lifestyle run in the family? Is that just like a normal thing, and that's why you ended up that way? Obviously, you're not blaming them, but the way you're nurtured usually leads to your outcome and your reality in life. Is that part of your family, or did you just adopt some negative habits, irrespective of what your family raised you to lead you to become fat, sick, and medicated?
Well, that's a great question. And we could spend a lot of time just on that. So, we're all born with certain genetic dispositions, right? And some of the genes that we have are just fixed heritable traits. Like, I'm not going to change my biology, right? I'm not going to change the color of my hair or the color of my eyes or the skin or how tall I am or any of those things, right? Like, those things are fixed. But there's a thing called epigenetics, and think of that as like the control center of a gene. Well, so each and every one of us has something potentially that's a genetic disposition, but we choose to turn them on or off based upon how we eat, how we exercise, how we sleep, and how we manage stress. So if somebody has a disposition towards obesity, It's because technically that they have a genetic disposition that they've been born with. And then their lifestyle is ultimately allowing that genetic disposition to express itself. So so you can reverse obesity by reversing lifestyle, by changing how you eat, how you exercise, how you sleep, and how you manage stress, because that's all hormones. But then you ultimately start to turn off genetic expression in your body that you don't want to express anymore. So if you look at the things that happen today, we talk about obesity, but obesity is just one of the big metabolic syndromes. And metabolic syndrome is simply just what would be classified as a chronic lifestyle disease. And so we're seeing more of that stuff creep up because genetically somewhere in there, in part of whatever we got and inherited from our family, that we're potentially expressing it. So chronic kidney disease, or type 2 diabetes, or heart disease or cancer or any of those things, in a lot of cases, are actual genetic expressions. So part of what we talk about when we talk through people, the reason why I was able to get off my cholesterol medication, and I just got to make a disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, but I've studied the living daylights out of this. And by no means am I diagnosing or creating any kind of prognosis or saying that ultimately that it's the cure. But for me personally, when I changed my eating style, my exercise style, and when I changed and I started getting more sleep and I managed my stress better, all of the things, the onset of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, cholesterol, all those things, the CPAP and heartburn, that I was getting, literally in 6 months, it all went away, and that's provable by blood tests. And literally all I did was change how I ate. I was hypertension too, high blood pressure. I was getting to the point of having high blood pressure as well. But I literally just within a 6-month period, I'd lost close to 65 to 70 pounds. And in 6 months, I was off all my meds, and I was off of my CPAP. I didn't have heartburn. I didn't have high blood pressure. Literally all I did was change how I ate, and that went away. But I am genetically prone and genetically dispositioned for diabetes, for cancer, for heart disease. Those things, if I were to choose to continue down the path I was going before, I would be putting myself at serious risk at expressing those things. So obesity, back to that question, in a lot of cases, some of it is just by the fact of choice of food, right? And some of it literally is genetic expression. It's been proven by science that they're expressing a gene, that they're predispositioned to, and exploiting that gene in a negative way, I guess would be the best way to put it.
So you use the term epigenetics, EPIGENETICS, right? Epigenetics.
Yep.
What is that specifically?
Just think of it as the control center of a gene, right? And it's controlled by habit and behavior. So, your epigenetic is the control center that literally turns on and turns off certain aspects of the expression of a gene. And so I guess for a little light humor, no, we're not talking about GEANS. We're talking about GENES, right? But those, for those that are listening, it's not in every instance, in every case, but it's in a lot of cases for people.
Let's take a quick break to thank our amazing sponsors for making this podcast possible.
As an entrepreneur, I know that you have to deal with sales on a regular basis. Every entrepreneur does. And if you aren't paying attention to sales as an entrepreneur, you're not going to be an entrepreneur for very long. But I've got a sponsor of this show called Dub that helps you bring the personal back to sales. If you want to figure out how to improve content creation and improve client trust, improve your sales process, decrease the sales cycle, because we all know time kills deals. If you want to increase client bookings and increase conversions, you need to take a look at Dub. There's a special offer for Dub for listeners to The Root of All Success at therealjasonduncan.com/Dub, and that's DUBB. I've been using this for years. I'm a huge fan, and I'm so honored that they're our primary sponsor of the podcast. But they have helped over 60,000 businesses around the world communicate better, to make sales easier, to make sales more personal. And it's built for growing teams. I mean, you can set up video emails, you can set up custom onboarding, you can do admin reporting. You need around video and sales and automation. Dub is there. You can try Dub now. Your conversions to sales are waiting. All you got to do is go to therealjasonduncan.com/dub. And there you're going to get 2 weeks for free to try Dub. Plus, you're going to get 50% off your first 2 months of Dub. You can't beat that. So go check it out. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/dub. I love talking about this sponsor because it's oftentimes a lot of people talk about sponsors on their shows who have sponsors and they either don't use them or they might have used them once and they're not really in love with it. They just take their money. And certainly there's nothing wrong with that. But this sponsor, one of my sponsors of the podcast is Story, STORYY. 2 Ys. Why? Because they're awesome. If you've ever wondered how these influencers do their Instagram Reels and their TikToks and their YouTube Shorts to look so amazing, where they've got the zoom cuts and the pop-ups and the on-screen illustrations, whether it's cartoons or actual images or videos that get responses that people go, ooh, I want to talk to that. If you want to know how people do that, that is exactly what Story does. They take your videos and they make you look like an influencer. They make you become an influencer. And they will post it for you. They'll write the captions. They'll add the relevant hashtags. They put it on the platforms that you care about the most. And after that content's posted, they take it even one step further to boost it to your past clients, your leads, or anyone that you want to target. And they even have someone log into your social media profile to engage with other people's posts to drive engagement on your profile. Story truly takes the headache away from doing social media content from start to finish. And they have a mission to help people nurture and cultivate their relationships by sharing your message digitally. And they even have an app that makes it easy to upload your content and track everywhere your video is at. And I've been using them for a long time. And I told them, I said, look, guys, I love what you're doing. I want to recommend you to everybody. You need to be a sponsor of my podcast. And so they're a co-sponsor of this podcast. And they're also the exclusive sponsor of my live webinar series, Entrepreneur Master Series, because they're that good. I tell everybody about them. So go to therealjasonduncan.com/story to learn more. And that's therealjasonduncan.com/story, STORYY. Why are there 2 Ys? Because they're awesome. You'll get 10% off your first 3 months if you go to that link, therealjasonduncan.com/story.
Thanks for listening to our sponsors. Now, back to the show.
You know, when they're doing that. But your epigenetics is something that science has proven and has brought forward recently, that you actually have the ability to turn on and turn off certain things by changing behavior and habit, behavior and lifestyle, or behavior and environment.
Yeah. Okay. So I just pulled this up on my phone. Epigenetics dictionary.com is the study of changes in organisms caused by modification of gene expression rather than alteration of the genetic code itself. So the way I translate that into my simple brain is what you were saying, Justin, is that you have a predisposition. You know, your genetic code is going to predispose you towards whether it's diabetes, obesity, et cetera,
Sure.
the things you just spoke about. But
Yes.
you have an epigenetics, which is teaching us is that we can change through modification of how we express that rather than altering the genes. We can change things, which is what you did. You know, you had some predispositions to be certain ways, and you in fact became that way. And then with a conversation with your trainer, ended up making wholesale life changes, and you've never looked back. You changed the disposition. Is that what
Correct.
that is? Is that what that means?
Correct. Yes. I mean,
Was it that simple? Well, let me ask you this. Was it that simple? Like you said, your trainer just said, hey, but how about just lay off the potatoes and bread? Like, was that it? And you just, boom, like mind blown. Oh, I never thought about that before. What was it about that conversation that sparked the revolution in your altering the way you manage food and how you eat?
You know, so, I mean, I had been struggling for a long time, right? In searching for a long time to try to find a solution that would work. I mean, I'm the poster child, you know, of the up down roller coaster, in the peaks and valleys when it talks about lose weight, put it back on, lose weight, put it back on. At that time in my life, honestly, I didn't care about whether or not I was going to be medication free or epigenetics or gene expression or any of those things. Like, I'll put it very bluntly, Jason, I just didn't want to be fat anymore. And I was tired of the roller coaster ride that I was going on, in order to try to find something that was sustainable for me. I mean, that's all I really cared about. I just wanted to be able to lose the weight. I just wanted to look good. And if I was lucky, feel good, and be able to not have to work so hard for it or to go through this grueling process of scarcity or deprivation or just pummeling myself in the gym for hours on end, trying to like sit on this crazy train of weight loss. And that's what struck me. I mean, so keep in mind that when I had actually fired my physical trainer, like I had my own pity party for about 6 months before I actually decided to take action. So it wasn't instantaneous. It was just after sitting there for 6 months and doing nothing and I knew that wasn't going to do anything for me, that I finally went to Barnes and Noble, and the book that I was going to buy actually wasn't there. So I ended up buying a different book, and that was the Primal Blueprint. And then I followed that. And through that, I had amazing results. And because of that, we decided to take our technology business and put that on autopilot. And we became certified primal health coach, coaches, certified coaches. And that's ultimately what launched New Resolution Health Coaching. And that's what's launched, the several people that we've been able to help so far that are, that have had similar or, better results than what we've done, because we've been doing it for 12 years. Right. So it's been a really exciting journey and exciting change. But the fact that, like, when I made that transition in 6 months, man, back when I was 36 years old and I'm almost 48 now, like, you've known me for a long time. You've known me for about half of that transition, right? Very minimal change in my life. Like, it's been very, very consistent. And I just live by those basic principles that I taught and applied. And that's what's kept me healthy and strong, for all those years. And it's still going. It's simple. It ain't easy, right? It's simple, but it's paid off for me more than I could ever possibly express in words.
Well, I, as somebody who knows you really well, I can attest to what you're talking about. You and Cindy, your beautiful wife, are definitely 100% all in on commitment to the Primal Blueprint and being health coaches. But what I also want to applaud and kind of for the audience's sake is that, for people who know me, I'm the exit without exiting guy. I teach people how to run their businesses so that they have to run the business every day. The business kind of runs on its own. And you said something really interesting. You said you put your IT company, your technology company, on autopilot so that you could pursue something else. And you did an exit without exiting, which I think is really clever, even though you didn't necessarily do it exactly the way that I teach, or because I taught it, you did it. So now you chased 3 or 4 different other opportunities, and we don't have to get into those, before you finally went, you know what, dang it, I like, this changed my life. I want to serve people the same way that it served me. And I can see the spark in your eyes and see the spark in Cindy's eyes when I see her, about what you guys are doing to help people change their lives the way that yours was changed. So I applaud that you tried all those different things, but you ultimately landed on the thing that I think you're really supposed to be doing. So you used the adversity of overcoming obesity and high cholesterol to now be the guy who helps other people do that. So I think it's awesome, man. I think that's really cool. What is if you had to narrow down, like, not to oversimplify it, but if you had to narrow down what you coach people to do to a few just highlights, like these are things, like your trainer said, no potatoes and bread. How about that? Like, is there something pretty simple that you say, look, if you want to get off you want to stop being fat, stop being sick, stop being medicated. These are the top, 5 or 6 things. These are what we teach in simple forms. What would you say?
Yeah, so the big things throughout the process is one of the very first lessons that we go through is eliminating words that don't serve you. A lot of people when they go on a diet, they fall into the camp or can't. They fall into the camp of can't or can, and do or don't, right? And that ultimately becomes very legalistic to people. And typically, when you put people in that camp, the biggest issue that you have is that human nature is just naturally going to rebel against it. So one of the things that we do is that we just choose different words, so supportive versus unsupportive, and then that becomes a choice instead of it ultimately being something that you can or cannot have, because in reality you can have whatever you want, you can eat whatever you want. And through our program, right, we're not your babysitters, we're not doing that. The second thing is that we want to really empower people. We don't want to take away their power. So one of the biggest shockers that they have is the fact that they're expecting some kind of meal plan, and they're expecting some kind of workout plan, and they're expecting some kind of regimented system for them to follow. But when they fall into that, then they have given away their own power, and they've given me power. And now they don't have any control over the choices in their life. And so when the program is over, they've learned nothing. And typically they end up just falling back into their old habits because they actually didn't have to apply and make the lifestyle change. So we want empowerment, for them. We want them to know how to do it in any circumstance and situation and make the best choices possible, right? And knowing that life happens. And the last thing that really falls into it is the 80-20 rule. In that, really what it says is that you want to strive for 100% compliance, but if 8 out of your 10 choices are supportive, then dude, you are going to do phenomenal. Like literally you're going to make some really miraculous transformations in your health and body composition just by following that. And the rest of it falls under what you're going to fuel yourself with, right? And how you're going to actually strength train, the amount of sleep that you're going to get, your lifestyle, play, and other things that just, sun exposure and those kinds of things that modern day society and us modern day humans don't get a lot of. But those are the big 3. Changing your language so that it supports you and that you're making supportive decisions, empowering you instead of taking power away from you. And the third is understanding that life happens, so nothing is ever legalistic. It's just you make the best choices that you possibly can in any case or scenario. And usually those big 3 have a very traumatic positive, maybe I shouldn't put those 2 words together, but has a very phenomenal positive effect on people when they know that they're not going on a program. So we joke around, Jason, right? Like we say, this is the last non-diet diet you'll ever go on, because diets don't work, man. And science and studies and research studies have proven over and over again that diets don't work. They fail within the first year. Most of them fail within the first couple of weeks.
Yeah. I think everybody listening knows that's true, yet we keep doing it. We keep going back and trying another diet. It just doesn't work. I mean, there's just a lifestyle, which is what you teach and what you've been living, that will get you where you want to be and will maintain that. How do you think, what do you think mindset plays into all of this? I have an opinion about it, but what do you think? How does mindset play into what you teach as a health coach?
Oh, well, the mindset thing is really getting people to let go of all of the things that they've done in the past and really trust the process that they're in moving forward. People today are terrified that what they're going to do isn't going to give them the result, or they're terrified that what you're telling them is actually going to make things worse for them because of the conflict of misinformation that's out there. Most people are underneath the impression that less in, more out. And what's happening is we're usually dealing with people from a diet perspective that are literally starving themselves, and they're doing it for the sake of trying to either keep weight off or lose weight. And what they don't really understand, like mentally and physically and even hormonally, they are doing some pretty good damage to their metabolic state. And that psychological effect of telling somebody that they may need to eat more, and if they eat more, that they'll start to see the weight loss that they want. Like, you really got to walk some people through that. That's very challenging, for them to do it. Or telling somebody that they don't need to work out an hour every single day in the gym. The stuff that we bring to people is very countercultural, and it almost seems counterintuitive, but if they trust it and they allow themselves to trust it, and they put down all the other things that they've done in the past that haven't worked, and they trust what we're giving them, on day one and into the future, once they're fully embraced, this is the beauty of it, Jason. Like, once they're fully embraced, in about 21 days, they will see some pretty remarkable difference. Like a 21 day, once you have gone through and you've lined everything up and you're ready to start practicing it in full, and that takes a little bit of time. It takes everybody time to get there. But literally, once they're there, it takes on average about 21 days for somebody to genetically shift themselves back to burning fat and body fat as their primary source of fuel. And once that happens, everything else, the dominoes just start falling down in a positive way. You start dropping weight, your health issues start going away, or they start to become mitigated, and literally just the positive effect after that fact takes place. It really is remarkable, and that's what happened with me personally.
So do you still have the old pants and shirts? Do you hold up like they always do in the commercials? I used to fit these pants. You still have those?
You know what? They're long gone, right? Like my size 42 jeans, like they're long gone. I'm at a 34 waist now, and I've been at a 34 waist for about, 11 and a half, 12 years. But I do remember the first time, man. Like, I remember on how, like, for me, men are different than women, right? So if there's any women listening to this, my experience is, as a man and metabolically doing this as a man, women have other things. So making this kind of transition, can take longer because there's just more things biologically from women that have to come into alignment to start to see the results. But Jason, I used to go to the gym, man, and I used to like pick up like 65 or 70 pounds, like in disc weights and that, or dumbbell weights, and I would hold that on me, and I would just like say to my wife, I'm like, I can't believe that I used to carry this on me. Like, this extra weight was something that I actually had, and it was heavy, man. Like, you pick up like 65 to 70 pounds and put that on your body and try to carry it around. It's got some weight to it. So for women out there, the transition can take a little bit longer because biologically there's more things that need to come in alignment, and a lot of that with women, if they're facing things like being overweight or obesity, they have other challenges in where they're at, like with menopause and those kinds of things. Women have more hormones that they need to deal with, and that needs to be in a level of alignment for them to have that same experience. But ultimately, in the end, the experience is still the same. It's typically just a longer transition time than it is for men. So, I just wanted to, just to express that, like, this isn't just for dudes, like literally it's for everybody.
So you're working with men and women now, both you and your wife are working, and you're coaching. Tell everybody a little bit how you do that, like how you interact with your clients. Is it a program? Is it a course? Is it a boot camp? Tell everybody how you do what you do.
Yeah. So, we have a 12-week course, right? We have a 12-week program called the Metabolic Restoration Blueprint. And it has 84 days of lessons along with accountability. And then that comes with one live group coaching session a week. And then we have different types of workshops that come along with that. So when they move into certain things, we do like a meal preparation workshop, we do an ingredients reading workshop, we do a fitness workshop. We have different workshops that accompany the overall program and the lifestyle change as they move through those first 12 weeks. So it's all app driven. And part of the accountability is that they have to check off the things that they're doing every day, and then they take a snapshot of that and they send it up to their coach, right? So we're tracking the metrics and what they're doing and making sure that they're doing the things as they're learning, because like anything else, as well as I do, is you don't do the work, you're not going to get the result, right? So that's how they're accountable to their coach, so their coach can see that they're actually really doing the work. And we can see the metrics, but there's something about the fact of also saying, hey, I did these things and I took a snapshot of it on the app and I sent it up right to my coach, says it like I really did it. That's just that little extra psychological step that comes along with the fact that you're moving in that direction and that you're really applying what you're learning. And obviously we try to make it as fun as possible for them.
Well, that's something I can definitely vouch for. You're definitely going to make it fun for people. Justin Denherter is not a boring man. He's going to have a lot of fun when you hang out with Justin. He's going to tell you every dad joke you've never heard. So when you do your program, your 12-week course, is this online? Is it in person? Is it a combination? Because you said it was app driven. So tell everybody what that means.
Well, so it's virtual, right? It's a virtual based program, and it's partially it's partially online, I guess, through the app, or web based, and it's live as well. So there's live interaction and engagement when we're on with the coaching calls. So so the group coaching call once a week is live with me, or if it's a group of women, it's going to be live with my wife, with Cindy. And then we share the responsibilities of the additional workshops that we offer throughout the week. So any workshop or any live session or live stream or anything like that, we're always going to be live through that. But the rest of it is just the day-to-day bite-sized pieces that people can take in order to create small wins that turn into big victories.
You're a great friend. I love you, and I miss hanging out with you. It's good to see you on this show. But I want to before we finish up the conversation, let's talk about success, because this is, after all, the root of all success. And you've been talking a lot about success when it comes to health and life and healthy lifestyle, et cetera, and food, how you manage those choices, et cetera. But from just a general perspective, how does Justin Denherter define the word success?
That's a great question. I think it's having the ability and the capacity to be able to do something more, beyond yourself, right? Like, it's success in one thing is being able to take care of your family in your own backyard, but it's also being able to give back and to give more beyond than just what you're bringing in, whether that be money, or any of those things. So when I look at it from an occupation standpoint, I had to come to the realization that it's selfish of me just to make a transformation for myself but not share it with somebody else, right? Like, that means that I have a gift and I'm not giving back by helping other people do the same thing. And I see that in all kinds of different areas, right? I see that in my life. I see that in my faith. I see that in friendship. I see that in a lot. So being able to get beyond your own needs and being able to have enough and more in order to be able to do that for others.
So with that as a definition, which I wrote down, the ability to do something beyond yourself, with the kind of the general theme of being able to give back, with that as a definition of success, do you consider yourself to be a successful person?
In some ways, yes. And in some ways I still need some work, right? I think that as I get older, I get more wisdom, and as I get older, I'm able to, to do more. There's, time also helps you be able to develop that, so that you can develop that muscle and skill set to give more, to do more, and to look beyond your own personal needs. So, if you were to ask that question to me 20 years ago, I'd have an entirely different answer, right? It was all about me, and it's still important for self-care and to take care of myself, but I got to look beyond that, and that's a skill set that I'm growing into, and I think that I'm doing a good job at it. So, am I having success? Yes. Am I saying that I'm at the pinnacle of being successful? No. And I don't know if I ever want to be there, honestly. Like, I think just stacking up the wins, or like Phil Stutz would say, just I'm adding a pearl every single day to a string of pearls. And that just, I think that helps me know that everything that I do every single day matters, and it's just getting me towards more of who I want to be, and more of who I want to become. That's how I would look at that.
Well, you are also part of the Exeter Club, which is my mastermind group. You're one of our certified coaches in the program. You're a health coach. And as a matter of fact, I was going to ask you, and I'll just ask you on the show at our next meeting, I want you to do the health minute, we do a mindset minute, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to do a health minute. I'm sure you'll be happy to do that, but I'll give you more details later.
Yeah, you got it, man.
But
Yeah,
what we do in the Exeter Club is just it's men who are trying to exit the daily operations and the grind of their business, so they can do what you said. The success is the ability to do something beyond yourself, to give back. And what's interesting is these guys, as you know, in this group, is that we're others focused. Everybody's wanting to do something, and then part of our central core theme as a group is to change the legacies of 10,000 other people. So I'm really appreciative of the fact that you're part of the Exeter Club. And if anybody's interested in that, you can check that on my website. But I'm really glad that you're part of it. And I'm so happy that we're working together, not only as friends, but also as colleagues in this thing to try to make the world a better place. So it's been great talking with you today. I'm going to leave the last word for you. So as we finish up, you have the last word, whatever you want to say, advice, you can tell a joke, you do whatever you want. But the last word is yours, Mr. Denherter.
Oh man, thank you for that. So my last word is I'm going to keep it towards health. My position is that it's never too late to make a change, and it's never too late to make an improvement, regardless of how dire you think your situation is. You can always do something to improve your quality of life. And so that's hopefully that is, to inspire people that think that they may be at the end. You're never at the end. You're only at the end when you're dead. And so I'm just hoping that I can help people live a longer quality of life by knowing that just don't give up, man. You can make a change. You can do something to give yourself a better life. Well,
check out Justin Denherter at newresolution.com, and new is spelled N-U, as in new you, but newresolution.com, or you can see him on Facebook at facebook.com/newresolution. And anybody who enrolls in his coaching program, if you just mention that you heard him on this podcast, you get 10% off. Get 10% off the coaching program. And remember what he said, within 21 days, you're going to start seeing significant changes in your life and in your health and your success in that. So Justin, once again, thanks for being on the show.
You bet. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, there you have it. Another successful entrepreneur, this time not talking as much about business, but more about life and about health and how healthy lifestyles lead to a better life. I've known Justin, like we've talked about in the show, for a while now, and he is 100% committed to this healthy lifestyle. And he's been able to do it in a way that, like he said, it's about language, it's about empowerment, and it's about that 80-20 rule. He is really committed to doing this, and he's a great coach, has a great heart for people to get them where they want to be. So I really appreciate Justin being on the show today. Go take a look at him at newresolution.com. That's newresolution.com. or facebook.com/newresolution. Sign up for his course, and you get 10% off. If you just mentioned the Root of All Success or the Real Jason Duncan, you get 10% off of that. Well, as always, I want to remind you to check out my book, Exit Without Exiting. It is an international best-selling book, and it's all about how to exit your business without selling it, and how you can begin living the exit lifestyle sooner than you ever thought possible, so that you can pursue the passions that you really have in life, like Justin did on the show. He talked about how he was able to put his other business on autopilot so that he could continue to get the money yet go off and do something that really fueled his passions and what he was able to do to help make a big impact in the world. And his definition of success, like he said, was the ability to do something beyond yourself. And so that's what he's doing now, that he's been able to get out of the weeds of daily operations in his other business so he can go help other people. That's awesome. So go check out Justin. Thank you for listening. Make sure you tune in again next week when I talk with yet another very successful entrepreneur about his or her journey to success. Until then, I'm the real Jason Duncan, and Jesus is King.
Attention business owners. Attention business owners. Feeling burnout from running your business? Uncertain if you're nearing burnout? Take our free 10-question business burnout test at businessburnouttest.com to discover where you stand. With just 10 quick questions, you'll learn how to immediately begin making changes to regain freedom and success. Cut your daily operations time in half. Improve your quality of life and prepare your business for your future exit without losing revenue or profit. Visit businessburnouttest.com now and take the test. Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.